This video is entirely to point out the difference between Skeptic TM's response to Mr. Crowder's points on climate change and how they differ from Potholer 54's, while Armored Skeptic completely skips around it and kind of implies that Stephen Crowder actually has a point, which he doesn't in any shape or form. Potholer 54 points out that Stephen Crowder is talking absolute shit. And if you're trying to defend it with saying, it's just a different form of content, I don't think content should exist that skims around the other person's point, doesn't debunk it in an effort to just save time and for comedic effect. Comedic effect is great, but if it means encouraging people to not really debate points and to let people get off with saying absolute shit, then I don't. Just fuck off, really.
Our current climate models are accurate, and our predictions have been stellar. I think you can guess where this one's going.
Yes, the predictive model for climate change has not been accurate, which is a good thing. But this doesn't disprove climate change. Just because we know something is happening does not mean scientists automatically have to be able to predict how it's going to play out. That's not how science works. You've only proven that the current theoretical model is flawed. Climate change science is not climate change. Climate change is happening objectively, outside of the science that studies it happening. Anyways, that's enough of that.
If he does go on Stephen Crowder's show, I really hope he sorts out his shit. Stephen Crowder's just going to throw a bunch of bullshit at him, and I really hope he doesn't do the whole, yeah, maybe you got a point there. See, at least in my opinion, he is definitely implying there that, yeah, the model is flawed. We're not very good at predicting it, but that only means that the science we've got is a bit wrong. Whereas Potholer... By the way, I've cut out some stuff, such as Potholer debunking Stephen saying that the measurements taken are wrong because of Noah. He debunks that, and he debunks the him going after Al Gore by saying, who gives a fuck what Al Gore thinks.
The vast majority of published papers in the 1960s and 70s were predicting warming, not cooling, by a margin of 44-7. And the reason they gave for this predicted warming was increasing levels of CO2. And of course those predictions have proved 100% accurate. Ice sheets, glaciers and sea ice are melting, and the rate of melt is accelerating. Temperatures have been rising to record levels, even when increased pollution and lower solar output should have been sending temperatures lower. And while we all tend to focus on atmospheric temperatures, remember that climate scientists look at the Earth as a whole. 90% of the extra heat is going into the oceans, which have also fulfilled the predictions of warming. The only thing climate models can't do is predict short-term changes, because in the short term there are lots of minor fluctuations that affect measurements like temperature and sea level. So what climate models can do, and have done very successfully, is predict the long-term trend. When geologists applied the model to the past 500 million years, it fit almost perfectly with the continuous changes in the Earth's climate. Geologists discovered that changing levels of carbon dioxide explained nearly all the long-term changes in temperature. The model explained the so-called faint sun paradox. That's the problem of why the Earth was much hotter than today, at a time when the sun was much, much weaker. It was because CO2 levels were many times higher than today. The model explained why the Earth escaped from a deep freeze during the Precambrian. It was because of a slow accumulation of carbon dioxide from volcanoes. The model explained why the Earth has maintained a Goldilocks climate ever since, because as the sun has been getting increasingly hotter, the high levels of carbon dioxide have gradually been taken out of the atmosphere and buried as limestone, coal and oil. And the model solved the problem of why the Earth warmed so much after each glaciation, given that the increased insulation that sparked them wasn't strong enough to melt the ice sheets. In fact, the climate model works so well that carbon dioxide has been called the Earth's thermostat and the long-term regulator of the Earth's climate. We even understand the mechanism by which carbon dioxide can do this. It's in peer-reviewed research papers going back over 100 years, when it was first discovered that carbon dioxide absorbs long-wave radiation. And a physicist calculated as far back as the 19th century that if the carbon dioxide level ever got high enough, it could affect the Earth's climate. Talk about a prescient prediction. So, notwithstanding the fact that Al Gore and assorted environmentalists often make wacky predictions that are wrong, as far as researchers in the field of glaciology, atmospheric physics, oceanography, geology, paleoclimatology, and all the other assorted disciplines that have built up this model are concerned, this myth is confirmed.
You see what I mean? And I know Skeptic isn't Potholer. He's not going to want to do all that in his video. However, I don't know, hey, go watch this Potholer video. That would suffice. By saying our models haven't been accurate is just not true. He's just using them to study things that they're not meant to be studying. They're not meant to be studying short-term changes and supposed to be studying the long term. Who would have fucking knew? So, yeah, I wish for death, and if anyone would give it to me, that would be a sweet, sweet embrace. Now, I've got to do some maths and kill myself. Also, Mr. Enlightened Skeptic Man, buy a bigger vest.